Know this. Introducing the original blood clot podcast, not players. Soothing Semantics. Special dedication all the way from New York. Boom. Yeah, man. SOOT Semantics. Yeah, me know. Boom. Soothing Semantics. Yeah, me know. Big ups to the man now. Soothing Semantics.
On another episode of Soothing Semantics, I am your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, leave your comments, and here we go. Today on the show, we have the man in Palm Beach. I mean, I know you probably do other areas other than Palm Beach, but from the short time I've seen you on Instagram, a very young man. Not yet, doesn't have too much in the facial hair department, but still sells very, very pricey homes. So we're here to get into it. Today we have Dovi Ettedgui on the show. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. I hear it's your first podcast.
It is. It's very exciting. Very exciting. I've been always wanting to do this, but this is the first time I actually drove up here to make it happen.
I'm very happy, bro. I'm very happy you're here.
And to answer your question about the facial hair, it's something that I've been working on as well. But
what are you doing about it?
Absolutely nothing. Just waiting. I think with time, it's eventually going to kick in and it'll be great. But until then, there's really, not much you could really do besides, you could take some pills or medicine or growth hormones for it. But, I decided if it comes in, then it's meant to be. If not, then fine. I don't mind a clean shaven.
Dude, just make a lot of money. It'll be fine. You're still a good looking dude. It's fine. It's all good. I hope I didn't hit a nerve there because I know one of my very close friends is like a little bit, he really wants to grow it. They do supposedly have this cream now or this sort of thing. I see these ads all the time. I don't know why they're fucking targeting me. Doesn't really make any sense, but hey.
You're doing pretty good. They should be targeting me.
Yeah, right? But anyhow, Dovi works with the Julian Johnston team at Corcoran, okay? And I don't know how much Julian himself sells, but I've seen that you've sold $20 million properties. How old are you, man? 22, 23?
22.
It's incredible.
I actually turned 22 on the 22nd of May 2022.
You're super young, bro. It's amazing. You're so young. So many people who are hearing this are realtors well into their 30s. Some of them are in their 40s. Some of them are even older, and they have never sold a property a quarter of the price, right? Most realtors haven't even sold a $5 million property. So before we go into the high-priced properties you've sold, how did you get into real estate in general? You must have been, 18, 19 when you started?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, Rafi, I was about 18, actually, just getting my feet wet. I didn't have my real estate license when I was 18. I know that's the age you can go and kind of apply to get it done. So my brother-in-law was, I was out of high school. I got my diploma. I didn't do college. So the next step for me was...
Kind of smart, bro, to be honest with you.
Yeah, looking back at it, it's like, it's good. I didn't have to pile up any debt. And, but I wasn't going to be an attorney or a doctor, so I needed to do something else because I wasn't going to sit in college for 4 years minimum 4 years, when I already did horrible in high school and had a hard time sitting still and getting good grades. So I knew I needed to do something else. As a little kid when I was 12, I used to sell watches. And, at the synagogue, I'd go around and everyone would, buy for me because I was a little cute kid. And then the watches would break and they'd want a refund like 2 weeks later. But they loved me and I was cute, so they bought the watches for me.
They were just shit watches and they knew they were going to...
They were literally from China. My uncle shipped them to me like 100 of them in bulk, and I was so excited to sell them. And then I called them and I'm like, these are all pieces of shit.
But they literally knew they were shit and still bought them. That's really nice.
But they still bought them because they're like, oh, it looks cool. I'll help him out.
They respect the young entrepreneur. Okay.
Young hustler. And at the time, I loved selling stuff, and I loved dealing with people, like interactions, and, so I like that aspect of transactions and dealing with other people. So there I am, 6 years later. I'm about 18 years old. And then I have my high school diploma. Mm-hmm. Call my brother-in-law, he's in the business world, and I'm like, what do you got going on? Anything I could do to, get involved in what you're working on? He was actually doing a joint venture with an auction company out of New York that was coming down to Florida, and these guys wanted to do luxury home auction platforms similar to Concierge, Platinum Auctions do it, and basically they take these expensive homes that's been sitting on the market for longer than, a 6-month time period, and they're just sitting. Clearly they're not selling. Either the price or timing, whatever it is, they're not really moving. And they would approach these guys and say, we can market the hell out of your properties, 6 to 8 week marketing program, and get you competitive bidding wars through this guerrilla marketing platform. You spend the 50 grand or so, more or less, depending on the price point of the property, and we get in front of a global audience and create a market, because there's no market for your property. And it was a very interesting approach to a lot of sellers, because I was getting involved in those activities, calling a lot of prospective clients that had their house expire or cancel off the market, and we targeted $3 million plus properties from literally Naples down to, I was in Boca at the time, so all the way up to Miami. And that geographic area, we would call these properties that were over $3 million and just sitting on the market, whether it's a for sale by owner, expired, or cancel listing. And we would approach them and say, your house hasn't sold. We have a different approach. We're not another broker trying to solicit your business and get your listing. So a lot of people are actually open to the idea and listen to it. And I would have a whole email thing I would send them afterwards about the pitch and everything we've done. I got a Palm Beach deal for $10 million and then a Naples deal for $5 million. One was on the ocean. The other one was in a very desirable location of Palm Beach, so that's why it was worth $10 million. Long story short, none of those properties sold, and I made no money. But I'm like, damn, I've been building a lot of these really good contacts of high net worth individuals, and I have the skill of getting in the door, which was very valuable for listings if you're a regular broker, conventional broker. So that's when I decided I want to work with the best luxury agent in the business and learn from them and see what they're doing, so how I could break into it. And I was just hungry. I wanted to learn. I was willing to, really work hard and just get a lot of listings. So that's exactly what I did. I went with a guy at Corcoran in Palm Beach, and he gave me an opportunity to work with him. So we were running around, getting listing appointments. We were running on the listing appointments, a lot of hiccups, a lot of running around, and things weren't going as planned. But in the end of the day, if you have enough listings and you could just sell even half of them, you're doing pretty good. So I decided I just got to keep, going. So it literally took me over a year before I got my first deal. But that first deal was a $20 million property that sold, from all those.
First property.
That was the first one. And it was after like months of persistence and really just not stopping, despite all the months of no money coming in or no results from all these efforts, which at a lot of times felt like, like you want to quit after some time. But I realized if I stick it out long enough, eventually something's got to happen. And that's when another one came in, and then I started partnering with really the best in the business all over, because I can't conquer every market. So that's when I started diversifying the relationships I've had within Corcoran Group and referring business outside of my market, so that I could get my name on the business, leverage those sales, get more business in my area, but still be out there with my name on different properties and exposure in that regard, and then also building those relationships.
So kind of, if you can't beat them, join them kind of approach, at least for now, until you can beat them, right? Meaning, if they're at the top, they're at the top, they've been in for 10, 20, 30 years, you're young, you're new, you figure, okay, I know how to do this, I might not have the credentials, let me partner up with these people so I can kind of build that credibility. Even if I got to cut commission, even if I got to take a little to the face, let me join them, and this way I have a better opportunity.
That's exactly what I did, because from the beginning, I already had the mentality of expensive properties, because that's who I've been approaching for the last year and a half before that.
Right.
So I already had those contacts, but these guys are sophisticated, and it's their biggest asset, and it's very hard as a new agent with no track record to convince somebody to give you their $3 million plus listing.
100%.
It was a very challenging thing to do, so there was no other way to do it in my mind. Not that I haven't tried to do it, I definitely tried, and I realized it's really smart to maybe not get the whole pie, but at least get half of the pie or even a quarter of the pie than not get it at all.
I couldn't agree more.
So that's exactly what I did, and I just kept doing that. And then there was two aspects. One aspect is I like to collaborate for two reasons. One, if it's not in my market, you don't want to be driving around. This is what I did, and it was spreading myself a little bit thin in the beginning because I was all over the place. And what I really should have been doing is honing in on one market from the beginning and just hyper-focusing on that market. I didn't do that. I was all over the place because those were the relationships I've had, and whatever I can get is what I'm going to get. Especially in the beginning, I was just hungry to get listings. So the two things were, let me collaborate with different agents for two reasons. One, I could, refer business out that I don't want to drive around and do myself, save me the time to focus on other things. And like you said, they have a track record and years and years and years of experience where not only I can learn from them and, be humble and sit back and kind of get an idea of how they're doing things differently. And then also, get a piece of it by not getting the business at all, because these guys are not going to hire you regardless because of your lack of experience and lack of track record. So after, some time of getting business, by leveraging other brokers that help me get the business, I've learned a lot from those experiences. And like you said, now I'm able to kind of do them on my own, but still smart enough to partner with them even now because of how hard it is sometimes to get these bigger deals.
So it's such a good lesson. Whoever's, me included, because I haven't tapped into the luxury market yet. I've met wealthy people. I really feel like it's around the corner for me, especially with the podcast. I'm meeting very high net worth individuals, and I've learned that. I really, really absorbed that concept because I've gone to a few multi-million-dollar properties, and I just wasn't prepared for it. I went in there confidently. I went in there looking nice, but they have very high expectations. And it's not to say that you can't pull it off, but you're really going against big players.
Yeah, and there's going to be some that you get on your own.
Right.
There are. There's
Right.
going to be people that like you. They're going to give it to you anyways.
Right.
And, but you're spreading yourself a little thin by trying to do all of them when my gut is always telling me in situations, I think this guy really, he likes me. We're almost there, but he wants someone else just because of the size of the deal, and he wants someone that's been doing it longer. So, and how do you compete with a guy that's been doing it for 20 years that's sold billions of dollars? When you're 3 years, which is still fairly new in the business, even with a track record, you're still, it's a humbling thing to do, but you really are not even close to where these guys, they are on that level, and you're competing with other agents. You think you're the only guy meeting with these guys.
Not even close.
You got guys from Element, Sotheby's, you've got all different types of people, Compass, that are meeting with them, and, these guys are huge, and then, it only helps to bring in another agent to do it. So that's one thing that I've done from the beginning that's definitely helped me a lot to get some of those bigger listings. But don't get me wrong. I mean, there's clients I've gotten on my own, $5 million, $2.5 million, on those price ranges. But I think without the track record, it makes it extremely much, much harder. So right. I think after you got those sales, then it makes it a little easier. But even then, like to this day, most of my deals are collaborated with other agents.
It's smart, man, because eventually you won't need to. And at the end of the day, you never know what it'll bring you. If you develop these relationships, you're making another agent, even if they've sold $2 billion in their career, if you're giving them an additional $60K, $80K, $100K, they're going to remember you. That's not nothing money. That money helps. Even if they're worth millions and millions of dollars, you're giving them a lot of commission. So if you're doing that, if you've done that with John Smith, and he sells $300 million a year, does he need that extra $100K from you? No, of course he doesn't need it. But he's going to remember you because very few agents have the ability to bring that deal to his table. The top.
It's definitely adding value. It builds
you're adding huge value, and I think at some point or another, he or she's going to remember you, and they're going to want to return the favor. They're going to want to give back to you. So these are huge lessons. So another great topic to lean into is you being young and looking young. Did you ever encounter that where a seller, because let's be real, a lot of these high profile sellers, they're drivers, they're very blunt, they don't give a shit to tell it like it is. Have they ever brought that up to you, like when you showed up?
Oh geez, I've gotten that all the time. I still get it to this day. I think I'm going to get that for a long time, mainly from what you said in the beginning. I mean, my facial hair is just so far from I look young, right. and I've gotten it before. I probably will get it again. And, I've had more people that were very blunt and that would say it straight up, I'll never hire you, because of your age, and, they don't feel like maybe they could relate to you as much, being that they may have grandkids, and, you're like their grandson, and you look very, very young. And I've had that happen to me, multiple times, which led me to bring in another agent to help get it done. And then there's times where people wouldn't even say it, but I had a feeling that that's what they were thinking. They may have not have been as blunt, but that's what they were thinking, and I knew it. And that's when I would say, well, I'm part of a team, or this is what I'm bringing to the table. Besides my, you've got a young hustler who's hungry and motivated, which is why I'm in the door. But then you also got these guys or this guy or girl to help, with the other aspects of what you need to deal with in the sale. And yeah, I've gotten that all the time. You look so young. What are you, the first question a lot of people ask when I get into their house, how old are you? Or, you look so young, and, those things come up all the time. But I think it's a mindset. I don't think I think that you could be 52 and you don't know anything about the market or anything about their property or community, and those things will come up and they'll read it right away that you haven't been doing it long and
100%.
You haven't sold a lot of properties. So either way, to me, it's just an excuse. I think it's a mindset shift. You could be 18. It doesn't matter as long as you know your stuff and you go in there confidently, like you know what you're talking about. It doesn't really matter how old you are. It's just in your mind if you believe that you're able to do it. And so that was a shift I made as well. Like you said, over time, there's going to be a lot more I get on my own. I love collaboration. I think it adds a lot of value to the client, and different people bring different things. I know some clients want to deal with, they may be a woman and they want to deal with another woman. Right. Me bringing in another guy doesn't help that relationship. It might work, but if my gut is telling me that they would deal better with this person, I may end up doing that, and that helps it helps it go smoother.
Dude, it's excellent advice. It really is. I've started to put more focus on that now, and there are just certain realtors, especially in Miami-Dade, in the condo market, that I know sell a ton of real estate in the condo market. I had this one client I reached out to for a long time. He had a property in Portofino, and I wanted to meet with him, but at the time he wasn't looking to do anything. And he ended up listing with an agent I know. Really nice dude. Even younger than me, but he's been in the game since he's 18. He's like 26 now. So listed with him. Was on the market for a couple of months. Didn't sell, like a while. Didn't sell. And reached back out to him. Followed up, set up a 3-way call with this realtor that had sold a ton of luxury condos.
Your partner.
What do you mean? He's not a partner. What do you mean?
In your firm that you.
He's not in my firm. He's in a different company. Okay. But I knew him. I had him on my podcast. I'll give him a shout out. Daniel Tsinker. Maybe you've heard of him. The agency.
Yeah.
And the other agents, Jonathan Vega. There's no issue saying their names.
People love a guy that, works with other people that, knows the area, knows everything about the dynamics of the real estate market in that area and sold a lot in that community. Most people make it, they may have a friend that's in the business, so they use them. But a lot of people want, from a business standpoint, the best guy who's going to get them the most money for their house because they know the market the best. They've have the best track record in that area. And those are usually who they end up leaning towards and list with.
What are some major advices you have for realtors at any age getting into the biz? What are some things that are absolute must-dos in order to do well? And then after we talk about that, we're going to talk about absolute requirements of getting into luxury. But first, what are some must-dos of a realtor period?
Must-dos from the get-go, know your market. Mm-hmm. Whether you're farming a building or a community. The one thing I wish I did, which I'm learning even now, is that finding a market and then building your name in that community over a long period of time is way more effective as an individual agent than scattering around the globe and taking anything you get your hands on. Because the transactional thing is great, but over time, it's where you have relationships and which communities you're involved in is really, in the long run, where you're going to get most of your business. That's why they say, like where you live is kind of where you get a lot of your business, which kind of gets into the aspect of, trying to move into actually living where you want to farm. And that's where people will see you all the time. They'll see you're involved in the community. You're part of this organization. Over time you become that trusted advisor because they know you, they like you hopefully. And then that kind of helps you get into the door. And that's just something from the beginning I wish I would have done. The other thing when you're first getting started is kind of have a, like a budget, I would say. And, if you don't have like any money coming in, you want to plan, I would say at least, I would say a year of not making any money, mm-hmm. At least for a year, because when you never know when that first paycheck will come, especially as a new agent. It could take time before, you get that listing, and then that takes time before it sells, or you run into that buyer who you work with. Whatever it is, it may take some time, and 90% of agents drop out in the first 2 years. So I would say actually prepare for 2 years of no income.
It's wild.
Which is a tough thing to do and very hard for a lot of people, especially if they, need income coming in.
They have kids, wife or husband, yeah.
And that's where the bread and butter comes in forget luxury markets. I'll take listings at any price point because they pay the bills and they move quickly. I will never say no to a listing under $1 million.
Right. Will you still post it on your Instagram if it's 100K?
I will. I posted every listing that I've listed and sold on my Instagram.
Okay.
My lowest sale was 3 units in one building. It was a total of $1.1 million, and then another listing was $685,000 and so forth. I post it all, but obviously my focus is on the higher end market. But whatever you can get your hands on that's sellable, take it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great advice.
So that's another must, I would say, is preparing to potentially not have income coming in. I can make a ton of money in real estate, and then they get into it and it's like, oh, this is actually hard, to actually get deals going. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
Then you're, trying to find another option B. The third thing I would say is going with no plan B. And just, if you're going to do it, go in and make it happen, or don't do it at all. I mean, when you go in with that mentality, you end up making things happen because you're backed against the wall. You went in with no plan B option. You didn't come here for any potential alternatives if it doesn't work out. You either said, I want to get into this and I'm going to make it happen, or, you don't really get into it at all. That's another thing I would say would help a lot, because that's when you kind of push past your limits and make things happen.
Kind of burn your bridges. It's amazing at your age that you're so conscious of this. And most guys at your age are completely off in that regard. They're partying all the time. They are not as focused as you are. You're very, very focused at such a young age. So if you continue to remain this focused, I mean, you're gonna fuck it up, dude. You're young, you're extremely young. I'm sure you know that already, but it's awesome, So a lot of people don't have their perspective. A lot of people a lot older than me. I'm 28, right? I got a couple of years on you, but people a lot older than us don't even have this mindset and perspective. Now, something I was wondering also, do you have your own place? Do you live at home?
So I rent a house right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a single family home. It's near the beach. So I'm living there now. It's pretty comfortable. But before that, I was living with a roommate, and between the two, I definitely prefer to live alone. I could think, process different things, and just can really focus. So for me, that was a way better move for me, hands down.
Awesome. And you prefer a house over a condo?
Well, this was like I would say. For me personally, you got a lot more space, like the pool, the backyard. I definitely don't mind a condo with like a nice view, or, there's nothing wrong with, I love condos as well, but for the house is great. You can get your home office in there, go in the pool. You don't have any, people bothering you. I like to focus. Like I rarely really go in the office for a long period of time and work. I feel like I'm more focused outside of the office, doing my own thing, getting things done from the house. To me, I could just focus more, less distractions. So the home is a better alternative for me to focus.
Interesting. I find that the office is much better for me to concentrate because I have other people working, and I have my own private office. So when people are walking by, I have my shades down. But when I do want to, just when I'm home, I have more of a. It's like my allergies are about killing me. When I'm home, I might want to do the laundry, or I might get distracted with this or get distracted with that.
100%.
I can still work.
Yeah.
But when I'm in an office environment, in the real estate office, all my home shit is home. Even if I'm like, I should really go do that, I'm not about to drive home and do it. So for me, it works better.
Everyone's different. I agree. I think if you're getting distracted by like home stuff, it kind of takes you away from the work mentality. And when you're in the office, you kind of focus on getting stuff done. But every time I go in the office, I get distracted.
Yeah.
I end up talking to someone. I'm not really getting as much done.
Right. I think
it's personally.
Yeah, it depends on who you are.
But then again, for my real estate exam, I couldn't pass it until they gave me my own room, and I sat in my own room so I could read the questions out loud so I could understand it. 3 times. The third time I passed, they gave me my own room because I showed them that a long time ago they gave me a diagnosis for ADHD, OCD, and that because of that, they gave me my own room so I could read the questions out loud, process it, understand it, and then answer it accordingly instead of sitting outside where in my head I'm getting distracted every second because like there's just other people there. You on the other hand may not have that. It's the same thing with the office. You go in there, other people walking by, it doesn't matter to you because you could still focus on those things. So for me, that's why the having my own space where I could just work with no one else around. I mean, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So now that we discussed some of the must-haves as a realtor in general, what are some of the requirements other than joining a massive team? What are the requirements of getting into luxury specifically?
Right off the bat, I mean, you got to go in there and get some nice photos taken. You got to put your hands crossed like this. And I would say just really get some good poses for the pictures. Mm-hmm. I'm just messing.
I think it's important.
I think a nice headshot, is
great.
I didn't think it's great. No, it's important. I was just joking around, because everyone has the cool. Yeah. The headshots.
Top 0.1% award winning, and the award comes from nowhere. You know what I mean? Everyone's an award winning realtor. It's great. Okay.
Yeah, but I would say is reach out to your sphere of influence first. Go after people that already know you, like you. Those are must things to do in the beginning just to get some business. I think that's the fastest way to get it is go to people that already know you. None of my business in the beginning came from people that knew me. But in the end of the day, that's probably the fastest way to get it.
You know what else is interesting, and to expound on that, it could be sometimes, especially with high net worth sellers, is they they might like you, but they want to see that you can actually sell property for people you don't know. And once they see that you've been able to do that, they say, you know what? He has a track record now. Now I'll work with him. Because they say, I can work with him, but I don't really want to work with him just because I know the guy and he's my, friend's son and whatnot. I want to actually know that this guy can do what he needs to do and go out there and prospect and earn the business. Now that he's sold 5 properties worth $5 million each, I think he's got what it takes. Let me give him an opportunity, which I think is really smart. But then you've proven yourself, and now they'll give you the business. And once you've done a great job for them, now the tree's growing, bro.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
amazing.
us young, hungry guys that are gonna stick around in the business the longest because you can't stop the hunger, and people love a young, hungry guy. That's how I got in all the doors from the business I've gotten is from that reason. The persistence they appreciate. And then the tenacity as well was a big factor. The fact that, I'll show up to this guy's property and knock on his door or call him 100 times in a week, to the point where it's like, okay, fine. If you stop calling me, I'll give you my listing. It's great. But not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to get rejected or get the door slammed, their phone hung up. But that's, for me, the only way that I was able to get any business from the beginning, being new and not having... So that I would say, there's 2 different styles. Everyone has different styles. I think mailers, as far as print, they go a long way if you're doing it consistently. I mean, all the top producers are sending out mailers twice a month at least, probably twice a week in their core markets. And over time, the print mentality. I mean, a lot of sellers when hire the guy that they think spend the most money on marketing. So when they're getting these guys as mailers for over 20 years, they spend the most money on the mailers. That definitely helps them get a lot of business. So I would say once you're ready to start sending those type of marketing and never stop, that's gonna help a lot.
That's huge, yeah.
That's what I did when I first got my first listing. I farmed that one area, so neighbors actually resonated with me because I have a listing in their community. Then I sold it. Then I got the next one, and then now it kind of like makes sense that people would want to work with me because I have something that sold in their market, like in their subdivision, where I could say I know your market. I know the neighbors here. I've met with a lot of people in here, building my relationship. My trust in here is getting higher. People now know me. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, it's super valuable. But I had such a good point. Oh, okay. Now a point just came back to me. A big advantage of being younger is you don't feel, and I want to hear your thoughts, but this is how I feel, is as a 28-year-old, there are a lot of realtors that get into the business that are a lot older than us, a lot older than me. And as adults, a lot of them are married with kids. I think they feel that they need to kind of live up to a certain standard. They have to know certain things. They're older, right? They should be wiser. And I think it could cause a bit of an insecurity where they overthink. When you're younger, people don't necessarily expect you to know as much. No, that doesn't mean you shouldn't know your market. It doesn't mean they're not going to expect you to know things. It means that in your own mind, you're going into it saying, I'm young, just being willing to show up to that $7 million listing. They see that I'm obviously not 20 years into the business. You're kind of more willing to go and take those risks. Similarly to how a baby will continuously get up after they fall down because they haven't really learned to walk yet. In a certain sense, when you're younger, you haven't gotten kicked to the ass as much. You're more willing to take the risk. Once you get older, you're more set in your ways. You're more fearful. You're like, I can't anymore. I'm 45. They're going to think I'm stupid if I do this or I do that. And it's a setback. So that's why it's such an advantage when you're trying to build wealth and success to do it as young as possible, if that's a real important goal. Because A, you have more time, but B, you've failed less. So fail early, fail quickly. That's what I think is just really true. What do you think?
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And like you said, when it could be when you're younger, it could be any age really. But when you go out there and be willing to fall on your face, maybe earlier helps tremendously as well, and kind of learn from that earlier. It definitely helps. But then the mentality of being younger, kind of, you don't really care if you fail because you know that you can get back up and try again and do better the next time. And I always think preparing for presentations is extremely important. But I've realized when you overthink something too much, but you don't actually execute on it, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's better to know your stuff than not go to the meeting. I mean, if you don't know your stuff, don't show up to the meeting. But if you know your stuff and you're continuously overthinking it and trying to perfect it, but you never actually execute or take action on the idea, then you're not really gonna do anything. It's not gonna go far. I think that definitely helps, trying to actually execute those things fast, and then also knowing your stuff. I mean, those two together are like, you can really take over a lot of things.
Okay, I couldn't agree more. It's super valuable. So what are the main forms of prospecting to you?
Well, when I got that first listing, I definitely thought that letting the neighbors know about it was a good way to stay on top of their mind. So marketing, as far as print goes, like mailers, definitely are something to do consistently. Mm-hmm. Prospecting over the phone, I mean, it's so effective. So effective. There are a lot of people that are not going to answer. If you sound like a robot, everyone's going to not really give you any time. But if you're genuine, you make enough, you get through enough people. It's always a numbers game, and you get in front of enough people. It's gonna produce results over a certain time period. So the phones definitely helped me get a lot of meetings. A lot of people know Corcoran, and then when I call people, I come with value and I tell them something interesting about their market, their community, something I may have sold that was in their community, like a fact about something they may have not known before. Just trying to add value and give them insight. And then they like talking to you as well. And then whatever you could do to get inside the door definitely helps. So you could build a face-to-face relationship. And now, the next time you call them, oh, Dovi, how you doing? Because now they know you. You're not a stranger anymore. And that definitely in the long term will help you get more business, because you're out there building relationships that, a lot of people won't go on meetings if they're not ready to sell or buy. I would say, why not? You're establishing yourself. They have to know you before they decide to list. If you're going to want to get hired most of the time. They want to meet you.
100%. So you're saying to have that appointment even before they're ready, even if they're not ready for another 2 months.
I'll try to go in and get appointments all the time, even if they're not ready, because the big brokers have no time for that. They really don't. I mean, they're busy with their current inventory. They have to sell those things. They don't have time to mess around and shoot the shits with John,
right.
over coffee or lunch. They just don't have the time for that. They're busy as hell. So I have the time for that. I have the time to build a relationship with this guy for the next 2 years. So when he's ready in 3 years, let's say, I have an $8 million listing, because who is he going to think of? The guy who's been adding value to him and staying on top of mind for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. A lot of the business that I've got recently, I've been in touch with for like 2-3 years. Like a $5 million listing I just listed in Boca. I mean, I looked at my notes in my HubSpot, which is my CRM, and I noticed the first conversation was in like 2019. And then looking back to it, it's finally listed today. It's like, holy shit. That's a long time. But really, it's not that long of a time in the macro of things. but it's not going to happen in a week. So I decided, why not just build relationships with as many people as possible directly with these owners. I think going and building relationships with attorneys, divorce attorneys, trust and estate, wealth management people, those are all great because they have access to these clients. But my approach is always go to the direct guy and go directly to them and get in front of them. So the phones were great. I mean, I would just get meetings with people, go and meet with them, establish a face-to-face.
You still do the phones daily? Because I make calls I make calls like clockwork. I do it a lot. That's how I've gotten most of my business.
Yeah.
Mostly listings for calls, yeah.
So my first 3 years, 3 years, I've been calling every day like a madman. I slowed it down a little bit because I have a couple other people that call and get appointments as well. But as much time as I have, I will go and call and focus on getting more listings on my own, because no one knows better than you what you're going to say. You know, having someone do it for you is not as effective as you doing it. But it also looks good when you say, like, you know, someone's calling on behalf of you. It makes you look a little bit more important because you have maybe an assistant doing it. So it helps with some people. But I'm trying to focus on that, you know, hot 25, 50 people list that I've been focusing on for the last few years that are, you know, substantially high in price, or people that are considering to sell soon, and then focusing on those as well. And then also my free time, calling every expired or canceled that I could possibly do out of like the 5,000 tasks I have that day. So to answer your question, I still do it. The phones are a great way, cost effective. You don't need to pay out of pocket. You can get through a lot of people. And then the tenacity aspect, you know, I would call someone on WhatsApp. They would answer, and I would, you know, you could see my picture on there, or at least they picked up the phone. You know, anything to get in the door was my mentality. You know, it's like I will do whatever it takes. Like I'm on a mission right now, and there's no way it can be stopped, because I'm gonna continue going and figure out a way to do it. So that was a huge thing for me, was the phones. A lot of people underestimate it. They get tired over time. It's not working, so they stop.
Dude, most people do not have the mental fortitude to make calls again and again. They get too many no's. They don't get the deals, and they just quit. It's
the rejection hurts. But if you keep getting back up and then consistently do it for like 6 to 8 months, I mean, there's no way you're not doing it, because you're learning every time as well. By doing it, you're learning how you could approach it better. Maybe you'll say something different or approach it in a different way where you get better the next time. And after consistently doing it every day, if you're having at least 5 to 10 conversations a day, over time, there's no way you're not going to get any results. There's no way.
You start to tweak the sentences, the phrases, the tonality. And a quick, easy one is, instead of saying, "Can I have your email?" you say, "Hey, John, what's your email?" Very simple. It highly increases the chances of you getting it. Let me stop by for 5 minutes, as opposed to, "Hey, man, do you mind if I come by today?" You know, it's all about the tonality. It's about the way you come off, the knowledge you have. Honestly, calls, obviously, there's much more I can work on, but I can very proudly say I'm quite good on the phones. Now, in terms of your schedule, and we're going to wrap this up quickly, but what does your schedule look like day to day?
Wake up in the morning.
Time frames.
Well, I get up at like 7.
Okay.
I'll go take a cold shower, get my mind set, and like wakes me up too. Cold shower is also good for your skin, so I like to do that stuff. And then I go out, put some nice clothes on. If it's like during the weekend, I may put on a polo instead, but I like to dress nice. If I'm wearing a jacket, sometimes there'll be a t-shirt underneath, but I look pretty sharp. I go out there, I start by getting some coffee, some breakfast, go to like the local restaurant. And then it's like 8 or 9, I would start getting like my expired and cancels in my database, and really start, those big ones, so they're already in my database. Then I have it in my phone, my CRM, so I can call wherever I want. And then I just start reaching out to my clients, important things. If I have showings that day or something like crucial with a listing that needs to get done, that's my priority number one. On my current deals, I need to focus on those. And then once I have free time, I mean, if that's all done in the morning, I would like to book at least, 2-3 hours of prospecting time where I'm either going out and door knocking on a street, which I don't do as much as I call, or just reach out to people and start setting up appointments. I like to do it on Sunday as well, because a lot of people maybe open to talking to you on a Sunday. They're not as busy with their work. That may set up my whole week of appointments. And then the mornings, just try to focus on getting more appointments. Then the rest of the day is just trying to go on those appointments or taking care of, maybe there's an inspection, or maybe there's a client that needs to, you to go see him and talk or whatever. So, I would say take care of the most important things first. That's what I like to focus on. And then right after that, start prospecting and getting more meetings. I do an email blast probably like once a month or so. It goes to about 10,000 plus people. So whether that's a new listing I just got, or, I don't really like to share like sold or whatever. I just like to market my current inventory, because there's a lot of high net worth, individuals that are on these email blasts that are seeing these things. So, and then just trying to find a lot of clients, good opportunities. I mean, I've got some off market properties I sent to people, but my focus has always been from the beginning listings, and just like focus on the listings. So that's kind of my focus every day, is just getting more inventory. And then it's showing the inventory and then selling the inventory, then moving on to the next property and just building that portfolio of properties. And that's pretty much what I do all day. I can't tell you my schedule is the same every day, because I'm always running around. There's doing different things. Things come up at different times. If you have a showing at 4, I can't be at, doing something with someone else. So it really is like, I could be working at 9 p.m. taking care of something, even 11 p.m. replying to an email. So I don't really have a schedule where it's the same every day. It's sometimes, it varies. It really does.
Okay, but
But the mornings, I get the shit done right away. The important things.
Right. Yeah, I get up. I try to get up between 6 and 7. I hit the gym, then I go to get to the office. I try to get to the office 8:30 most of the time. Sometimes closer to 9. Obviously, there can be times where I have to do showings at that time because the client's in town and they're leaving, whatever. But I try to time block from about 8:30 to 12 o'clock for cold calls. Then I take lunch at about 12:30. As soon as I'm done with that, I make my follow-up calls, as many as I need to do, for about an hour. Once that's done, if I have appointments to do for the rest of the day, I do them, listing appointments, previews, whatever it is, or buyer appointments, whatever the case is. And then I keep making calls if I have nothing else to do. I try to stay in the office till like 8 o'clock, and that's pretty much what my day looks like. Obviously, things change like you said, but what's super important for me is I try to at least get the time blocking in the morning for the calls, because if you push off the calls until later in the day, it's much harder to actually get it done. It's easier to slack off and make excuses and find other things to do instead. So that's what I found works best.
Great method to really knock it out from the beginning, the most important things.
And I have more energy earlier on. So that's
right.
better.
In the morning, I'm not as much of a morning guy, so it takes me a little time anyway. So the evenings may be better for me some days. Some days I have more energy in the morning. But that discipline you mentioned is definitely crucial to completing the tasks and getting things done by not procrastinating, by having that discipline. And you need to be consistent. So whatever helps you be consistent, that's what's going to get the results.
100%. Dovi?
I know you mentioned it before about the team atmosphere. To tie back in that, I think being on a team is helpful for many reasons. Maybe we can get into that another time.
Sure, bro. We can definitely have other segments and other. It's a shame we were kind of short on time, but dude, thank you so much for coming.
It's my distinct pleasure. This is my first time on one of these things. Really, really cool.
Awesome, man.
And I love your podcast. I appreciate you having it. It's like the things you're doing, building relationships with literally competing agents. Realistically, I mean, I'm not really a competition with you. I'm in a different market, but I look at everyone as a relationship. You're not a competitor of mine. I feel like there's so much to go around. And those are the type of things that are, how you build a business.
I look at it like this, man. I in a sense, anyone's competing, but there's always opportunity to work together, and there's so much business for everyone. So my podcast is very open-ended, but obviously as a realtor, I want to have a lot of realtors, anyone in the real estate space, because it's an opportunity for my guests to learn, for my viewers to learn, for me to learn. It's a no-brainer for me. So if anyone decided to work with you, they saw me on the podcast, liked you, and wanted to work with you, great, fantastic. It is what it is. I have really no issue with that. So for me, it's totally cool. Guys, make sure to check Dovi Ettedgui on his Instagram. If there's any other social media, you can let them know.
I just started my TikTok going, so I probably have like 10 followers on there, but I got some cool content. My name is pretty much on all my platforms. If you look on LinkedIn, Dovi Ettedgui will come up. Facebook, I got a real estate page for that.
I'm gonna post the picture of each account will be there. So
okay, cool. Yeah.
So I'm not just saying
Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn are cool.
Perfect.
I use those a lot.
Fantastic. Okay, Guys, I hope you enjoyed. Of course, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I know a lot of you are watching and not subscribing, so make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, leave your comments, follow Dovi, follow me, and I look forward to having you as a viewer on the next episode. Peace.